Support for this podcast comes from Alston Carlisle Digital Content Studios, your source for photography, videography, and podcasting. For more information, go to alstoncarlisle.com.
Good morning.
What's up?
How we doing?
It is
February 27th.
Yeah, so it's like I've been waiting to wear for my son to wear his Black History apparel. I've been spacing it out because I only bought a few. So I'm like, okay, you got one more left. You could wear this one tomorrow, because by the time he comes back to school, we're done, right? So I got this whole thing. I found him a gray long john to go under this one. So yeah. I hate that it's a short month.
We got an extra day though, supposedly.
Yeah.
But I'm tired of this bipolar ass weather. I feel like we've been talking about the weather for a couple weeks. Yesterday it's like, oh, it's so beautiful out. Now today it's cold as shit.
Yeah.
My whole hair was like up and blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Soph?
I feel pretty good. I feel really, really good. Just going through.
Fresh?
Feeling refreshed and
feeling fresh?
Yeah. And I'm not even quite sure why, because I feel like it's 1,000 things.
Doesn't even matter why.
That needs to be done. And I'm like, all right, come on, what you got?
Yeah.
What you got? So yeah, we are moving through this year. Someone said like, oh, I'm going away in April, and I was like, oh yeah, and I caught myself. I was about to say, oh, that's a minute away, and I'm like, no, that's gonna be here in no time. We gonna be in summer, and I brought they got this Moet festival coming in June, and I'm so excited about it. It's in June. I don't care.
Where is it?
It's in DC.
Oh, okay.
I went to the Clico one that was in New York last year, and I was like, it was really expensive. I don't need to go there all the time. I could just buy a bottle of Clico.
Do something else.
Yeah, but I'm like, this Moet one is just like pretty exciting, and I hear it sells out rather quickly. So I am excited about summer already.
I'm not. I just need my one snow day. I still need it.
Oh, wow. You still talking about that?
I still need, I'm pissed. I'm disgruntled. I looked at the weather. Every day I check the weather to see if it's a possibility I'll get it. And sometimes it's like, oh, when March comes, you might as well just hang it.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not true.
You watch the news a lot, and they always give the history.
7 day?
No, the past. I forgot what it's called. It's a meteorologist word. But the almanac kind of thing.
Yeah.
When's the last time there's been snow in March?
Last year.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Got you.
Yeah, we had snow last year. I remember I bought my house in March, and it snowed a couple of days after I bought my house. It wasn't a lot, but it was.
But was it enough to get you a snow day?
I think we have had a snow day in March.
Okay.
I feel like we have. Now, once it gets to March 20th, the chances go down. But I will never forget, I ran a 5K April 1st one year, and it was 30-something degrees. It was so damn cold. I couldn't even enjoy the 5K.
Yeah.
So I'm still hoping, but next week it says all 60s.
Yeah.
So I'm
excited
nervous
about that. I'm excited about switching up to a little lighter jacket, like just a little.
Shit, man. But anywho, we're here. We're feeling good. We are through February. Just about. I was thinking about the beginning of the year the other day, Soph, and I'm like, yo, I wonder how our listeners are doing with their still trying to just be better every single day and not like throwing up their arms, because this is a new season for us, right?
Yeah.
This is our Lent season, and this gets real intense. And so, you was off social media?
Yeah.
So you missed. So Journey, we had to talk about it yesterday about Lent.
Oh, really?
What she was going to give up, and she was like, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, how about you give up chocolate? Because she has a big chocolate ball every day.
Absolutely.
She was like, no, I can't wait that long. So I was like, well, how about lemonade? She was like, I can give up lemonade. Now, the only thing she drinks is water and lemonade.
Right.
And lemonade is her Chick-fil-A drink. And she was like, all right, I'll just get ginger ale. But then like 5 minutes later, she was like, you need to give up that wig you got on.
Oh, wow.
Yo.
Wow.
I was like, yo, and she thought it was the funniest thing. And it was so on cue. And I was like, it's not a wig. Well, you need to give it up.
Yo, kids, yo.
So,
Oh my gosh. So what did you decide? What are you giving up? Because I see, is this coffee? This could be tea.
sis,
That's why I just said it could
you don't
be.
see this
Oh, okay, I missed
thing
it.
hanging?
But I didn't assume.
I have been drinking 1 cup of coffee per day.
I'm just asking because that's usually on your list for Lynn. It's kind of like sugars and coffee.
So
or
sugar
sweets.
is definitely on there.
Okay.
I was like, sometimes I'm like, well, why put coffee on there? You know, you do this all the time. Does it matter most? So me and God, we've been talking about it. So I was gonna do social media, but I was like, our business page needs attention.
Yeah. So I should have, forgive me, because I should have texted you to make sure that that's not what you were going to do, because it's like somebody has to be leading this, or people just feel like we've fallen off.
Yeah.
So that's good that there's one person still rocking with it. So, I mean,
So what we got today, Soph?
hold on real quick. I want to say something because someone said to me yesterday, like, well, I'm not religious, so I don't know if I should practice Lent. So I do want to say, because I feel like if one person has that thought, many people do,
Okay.
right? So Lent doesn't necessarily have to be a Christian thing. It could just be an opportunity for you to give up on something that you feel is a sacrifice for you to just get closer with some level of just who you are. It doesn't have to be, it goes from the Ash Wednesday to Sunday of Resurrection kind of thing, but it does not have to look that way for you. One thing that, even going back when Shook just said about remembering a new year, but just this whole new you kind of thing, you really can define things how you want it to be,
Absolutely.
and not kind of get boxed into religiosity and things like that. So I had shared that with someone, and who knows, it may spark something with someone else too. So 40 days of just kind of surrendering and saying that this is an opportunity for me to get closer to me.
I think that one of the things that you and I had talked about several years ago was, it's not just a give. It doesn't have to be a give up, like a take away. It could be the sacrifice could be. I remember one year I did no phone. Like, I didn't turn my phone on until 12 noon, and it was off by 9 o'clock. And that in the morning, to not, spend a lot of time on the phone in the morning, like just scrolling, catching up, seeing what's happening. So it could be a matter of inserting something into your daily routine that makes you sacrifice your time, your attention, your patience, or, something like that.
Absolutely.
And so that's our thing. That's our
So I just want
education
to,
of the day.
share that. So today, a lot of my topics come from me paying attention to what I hear around me. And I've been having conversations with people who particularly have adolescent children now who are experimenting in some sexual form. So it sparked for me of, when do you have the talk? Like, doom, 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 doom. Yeah. When do you have the talk? Because what it's appearing is that many parents are saying, did I wait too long? Because now, instead of, prevention, now it's more intervention, that something has happened and now I'm trying to
Insert something.
Yes, have this conversation now and talk about safety and talk about just your body and all these different things. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what we're talking about, the birds and the bees today.
Okay.
So first of all, do you really even know the whole phenomenon about the birds and the bees?
Like, why is it called the birds and
Yes.
the bees? Nah.
So I remember one time in health class in middle school, they were like, "Oh, we're talking about the birds and the bees today," and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So I remember asking my dad. And the funny thing is, here my dad, he was a business owner, but still just a street man naturally. He was like, well, it's really about the birds. They lay eggs, which is what you'll do when you have a baby. The bees, they insert their stuff in you. And I was like, I didn't know what the fuck that conversation meant. So anyway, last night I went back to look it up, and he was correct. So what the whole phenomenon about it is that it was trying to demonstrate a very visual for people, because birds do lay eggs. So it's like a woman ovulating and having eggs and could have a baby. They don't even go hand in hand. And then the bees is like inserting pollen into the flower. So what a man would do with his his sperm. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever.
So what I was about to ask you, is there a history of birds and bees messing with each other?
So that's what I was looking for. And it's not. It really just is. Like it says that it was created to give kids a visual. Like, do you see that what the bee is laying on the flower, like inserting this pollen? That's what I'm like, what kid would get that? But they were saying that in school, they was teaching it, and that was a perfect time to kind of now insert, okay, so let's also talk about this. I'm like, that's dumb. So that is clearly outdated, and it seemed like it was outdated then, but that's the whole thing, that it was trying to give a visual depiction of what happens in a man's body and what happens in a woman's. So really kind of looking at the reproductive. Terrible. I wish having that conversation with a kid now would be, even then, like I said, my father said it and said no more to that story. I don't know how he knew it. So you just walked away with a question mark. Yeah, like, he's stupid. That's how I walked away. Like, this man is just fucking lost. And I actually thought, because he always used to have these bugged out stories, I thought he made it up. I thought he really made it up. And I feel like
Google, so that was knowledge.
Exactly.
You need to apologize.
So I am. He called me about some other shit last night, but I am going to call and apologize and say, hey, sir, you did have more. So today the conversation definitely wouldn't look like that. What do you feel is the appropriate age to have that conversation, to start to have that conversation?
2.
Mm-hmm.
2, because it's different. It's different levels to it, and so at 1 and 2, you should be talking about what the body parts are.
Yes.
These are the body parts. These are your parts. Nobody should touch these parts. That's like a conversation over and over again.
Yeah.
Now my kid is 7, so the point that we're at, because actually I don't know if I told you this. She was in the car the other day, and we always been clear about, this is your vagina, right? Mm-hmm. And she has been in dance class and said vagina, and the teacher come out to me and like, well, Journey said vagina in class. I'm like, what's the problem? I'm you know what I mean? Like, well, it caused a stir, and all the other girls were like, what's that? And I'm like, well, shit, do they need me to come in there and tell them? But anyways, the other day she said, my VV. And I said, VV? I said, I almost snatched my neck. I said, VV? I said, what is that? And she was like, Mommy, saying vagina is inappropriate. I said, well, who told you it's inappropriate? I don't know. It's just inappropriate to say. And so I had to clarify for her that the word is not inappropriate, but you don't need to talk to people about your vagina in public. And so now it's differentiating, because at some point somebody inserted to her that it's inappropriate for her to say that word. Yeah. And I don't want, you know what I mean? And so that's the level that we at.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So nobody touches it. You don't need to talk to your friends about your vagina and what's happening with you. If you're having a problem, go see the nurse, come talk to me, type of thing. And so, and at 10, depending on if we're going to have a menstrual cycle or what, that's when we'll, it'll progress and on and on and on.
Yeah. And that's exactly how, just doing some research, that's how it's broken down, that it's not a one sit conversation. You know, a lot of times people feel like, okay, it's time, let's go in, like preparing the day and setting the scene. And it's really not that. It's like the coming out. It's an ongoing, the Black experience, the, sexual orientation. It's an ongoing conversation. And so starting at, if it's 18 months for your kid or 2 or, whatever it is at their developmental level, that's the key. So sometimes people will marry the age, like, well, should I be doing it? But shit, if your kid been talking and doing all of this at an earlier age, then it may not be 2 for you, so, and it may be 2.5, whatever the case is. But identifying body parts starts the conversation about sex. And, I have this debate with people all the time because of that very same thing that you just referenced, that people said, oh, that's inappropriate. So it's like they come up with nicknames for the private parts, and that gets tricky. And that could be a whole nother topic. Of the main reason is that someone could be telling your kid that it's something, and they may not know to tell me that, because that's not what they calling it, flower now, or they calling it,
pocketbook.
Cutie,
that's the
cutie
one that
Pete.
That's the one that trips me out every time.
Yeah. So it's like, saying exactly what the body part is, just gives your child just more power over their area.
Yep.
So it's so, and then it talks about, like, sometimes maybe getting to that 5 to 7 or 8, where then it's really just having a conversation about what's private and what's public. And that could be, at that age, kids are experimenting, so they may touch their private part. And now you have the teacher want to have a conference, like, little Bobby had his hands in his pants, and that's like, bitch, go ahead. Like, he is 5. So yes, we are going to have a conversation with him in our home about what's appropriate, but not making him feel bad that he did something. Like, it's growing, it's tingling, it's something, it's moving, because he got on these tight ass briefs now, or whatever the case is, and he's adjusting it. And when he adjusted it, it felt a sensation, and it's like, well, let me do that again.
Or even not knowing what discretion is about as it pertains to, things that's happening with you.
Yeah.
Regardless, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that turns into a different phase of what is acceptable, and that private versus public piece. So it's Journey being in that age group right now, and saying that, ZJ will come home and say, a kid in his class, she pulled up her skirt, and it's like, I'm like, oh gosh, immediately I'm like, what did the teacher say? Like, ran over there and just like hovered over her, and just like ran her out the room, just all this dramatic thing. And now it's like she did something bad. My son was like, I know she got red today. And y'all know how he feels about the colors, right? Oh, I know she got red. And I was like, well, but it opened the conversation for me to say, well, why you feel like she got red? Because, like, she showed her private, and that is, and I'm like, maybe she didn't know that it's supposed to be done in the privacy of her home, and maybe she really didn't get red, and so it just goes on and on and on. So we have a guest today, and our guest, Keisa, the main reason why I'm excited about having her is because she has 3 children, and even research talks about the difference of the way you speak to your girls and the way you speak to your boys.
Yes.
And the talk and how it looks different. And Keisa having a boy, but then having a kid in college, and then having a younger one. So just getting to see how all different ages and generations play a part in this conversation. So we're gonna have Keisa come on in and tell her experiences about the talk.
The talk.
So I'm recording this, but I'm going to cut this all out.
Good morning. So you're not on yet, but let us hear your voice.
Good morning, ladies.
Oh,
Good
nice.
morning.
That is super clear.
I don't know, like, you guys might hear the wind because I'm in a car, of course, waiting to start work or whatever, but it's super windy. Like,
Yeah,
OD.
no, we don't hear any of it. We don't hear any of it. You are crystal clear and good. So we're about to bring you in. I'll just introduce you again and thank you for being on The Real Therapist for the Culture, because that's you just confirming that you said it's okay to be on the show.
No.
You're fine. So I already just said something about you, but just saying, just like, hey, Keisa is coming on because she has 3 kids, having a boy, how different the conversation is with a boy and a girl, and then having an older kid in college, and then having a younger kid. So we'll be able to hear her experience about the talk. And now you're going to come in, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hi, Keisa.
Hey, Keisa.
Hi, ladies. Good morning.
Oh, my God. Thank you for being on The Real Therapist for the Culture.
I'm excited.
Yes. So I thought about you, just one, being friends with you since, goddamn, 1996.
1996.
So before you even had children, and we were having our own rendition of a sex talk,
Right.
and having children, 3 children. What has it been like having the talk with them? So first, tell us the compilation.
The
how many
ages and the
girls and the
genders.
ages, and go from there.
Okay, so I have 3 children. My oldest is 17, which is a girl. Then I have my boy, who's 12. He's in the middle. And then I have a younger daughter who is 7.
Okay, nice.
That's
a perfect,
that's a normal curve. Go ahead.
Exactly. So tell us, what has it been like having a talk? Start with your oldest, because that was the first one. So what was that like?
So my oldest, I feel like I started to talk with her maybe in middle school. And her and her best friend, and I kind of glazed over it, such as like, don't give away your flower. All the boys want your flower. Nobody likes a tainted flower. And your flower is so much better when it's untouched because people want it more.
Wait a minute, Keisa.
Yeah.
So we're virtual friends, right? But when I was getting my hair done, I was watching, this flower concept is new to me. I was watching Jane the Virgin. You heard of that?
I heard of it.
And that was how Jane the Virgin explained sex in her Catholic school she was going to. And she was like, here is your flower. If you have sex, and she squeezed the flower and opened it, and it was just petals. She was like, this is what's going to happen to your flower. And all of the girls was looking like, oh, shit. But this flower thing is new to me.
Look, and Keisa, you've been doing it for a minute.
The time that is my flower is precious.
Where did you learn that?
Did you learn that at Catholic school?
No, I did not attend Catholic school. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I just always viewed it as it's delicate, just like a flower. So I kind of went with that.
Did someone ever have the talk with you?
So no one never had to talk with me like in detail and in depth. I had older cousins who would kind of just threaten me like, oh, if you have sex, we're going to beat you up, or we're going to beat up whoever you date. But nobody never really sat me down and was like, hey, if you go out and you have sex, you can definitely get pregnant. You can definitely get STDs and things like that. So no one in my family has never had that conversation with me, when in turn I had to learn myself from friends and things like that. And then I had to experience things at a younger age that I didn't want my kids to go through.
Got it. So telling your oldest, like, okay, how did they respond? Because I know you said you was talking to her and her best friend. Like, were they just like, yeah, okay? What was the response to your flower?
They were in middle school, so they kind of was looking at me like, all right, like, get out of here. Like, I'm asking them questions like, has anyone ever touched you before? Did you like it? Do you want somebody to touch you? Like, I asked those questions to both of them at the same time. And they were like, no, ew, that's nasty. However, in middle school, the school that they went to, they had sex education in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
sex education.
The parents to have the conversation early because of everything that's going on out here.
Yeah. I always felt like sex education was just a waste of time. I loved school, but honestly, that was the class that I will fall asleep in.
So it wasn't sex education.
Stupid videos that was just dumb and boring, and I would be like, oh, this is an opportunity to take a nap.
It was health class. So in the health series, it was home economics, it was health class. So you did half and half. And the health teacher, one of the, very few black teachers in the school, Miss Cowan, she was an older lady. She probably was in her 50s at the time. She was real straight, no chaser with it. And so before we even got to her class, we heard about what we was going to learn in her class. And she showed the video of the baby coming out. And either you wanted to go to class that day or you didn't want to go to class that day.
Yeah.
And so that was... I guess it was a little more intense, but I don't remember paying attention.
I just remember the pictures, the reproductive system, and talking about the fallopian tubes. I was like,
pictures of genital warts.
Yeah, I was like, this is boring.
Shit like that.
So this is in middle school, Keisa. So now, as she starts to get older, does the conversation change, or you still talk about flowers and being tainted?
No. So as she got a little bit older, I definitely spoke to her more about it. Like, I constantly asked her, because in my household nobody really asked me, like, are you out there having sex? Like, no one said that.
So just being direct.
I asked her, and then she had a little boyfriend at one point when she was...
Why you gotta be little? Why you gotta be little?
Somebody said when you say little, you a hater.
So I almost what my daughter kind of told her, had this approach with her, like, always tell me what's going on, because I don't want anyone else to come and tell me anything. So she kind of took that, and I told her, I'll be mad, but eventually I'll get over it, and we have to have a conversation. So when she did have a boyfriend, I asked her, like, oh, well, are you having sex? And she's like, no, but we kissed. And I was like, oh! Why did he kiss my baby? That's how I felt. But I'm like, just her growing up, and I had to trust conversations where I did tell her, like, you have a menses now. If you do have sex, there's a possibility you could get pregnant.
Yeah.
Get pregnant. So what I did appreciate going back, like, to the sex ed class in 5th grade, we actually had to sign off on it. And it kind of told us they're going to talk about intercourse. They're going to talk about STDs. They're going to talk about, once you start getting the menses and everything, you can definitely be pregnant. And we are going to offer the kids condoms. And I was livid at first, but then I'm like, maybe it's not for my kid, but other kids need to have that. I didn't have that conversation at home, nor was it in my school.
Right. Good point.
She kind of understood what STDs and things like that. And I mean, she's 17 now. She's amazing. I want to hope she's a virgin. She didn't tell me anything yet.
But if she's not, she's still amazing.
Right?
So, she's definitely still amazing. She's amazing. She's great. But I wouldn't be upset with her, because I also have to think about what I did. And if I started to have intercourse.
Yeah.
So I have conversations. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Do you feel like there was any approach to kind of help her feel more comfortable, or it was like the agenda was like, I'm just getting the information out, I don't care if she's comfortable or not? Or did you kind of groomed her, slow stroked it, and to get her to open up, or was like, I'm information focused?
So yeah, I was information focused. Are you having sex? You said you kissed him, and I know for me, when I kiss my lovey, I feel things. So I'm like, I asked her, like, oh, well, what you was feeling? Like, did you feel like you was gonna do it next? And she was like, calm down. No, because she's so mature.
Right.
Like, calm down. Like, no. She was like, I'm not going to give it up to him just because we together. I don't know if we're going to be together forever. And I was like, praise Jesus. Like, what I was saying years ago kind of stuck in her head. Like, but I mean, I feel like I did go gentler with my son.
Okay.
Gentler like what?
Go ahead.
With my son, because I'm like, one, that's my only boy. Two, he is just more... like out there to be with girls, I feel like he'll have several girls in his life and just think that it's okay. So with him, I kind of had the conversation early on, like, you showing anybody a little weed stinker?
We went from flour, now we got a wiener stinker.
A wiener stinker?
A wiener stinker.
Well, wait a minute, because when he was 10, he's only 12 now. I asked him that. He was like, oh, I don't have a weed stinker anymore. I said,
oh, wow. So he said, okay, no, we talking grown up. Yeah.
He said, cut the shit.
So for him, he is definitely, all three of my kids have extremely different personalities. And with him, I felt like I had to ask him. I'm like, yo, you having sex? Did you ever have sex? He's like, no. And I asked him, I'm like, well, did anyone ever touch you? He's like, no, I'm not going to tell you that. This is his words. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, no, man, that's weird. I'm not going to talk to you about that. You're not my father. So, okay, whatever. So with him, I kind of tell him, like, you know, if you give that away, you could get somebody pregnant. And he's like looking at me like, okay, which he also had sex education in the same school in 5th grade. So used to it. So when I spoke to him, I was like, well, what do you know about sex? And he was like, I know that, you know, a girl can get pregnant, but you got pregnant. So it kind of got to bigger conversations with him.
Yeah.
Got you. You had to go straight to the gusto. It was no tap dancing for this.
Yeah, I couldn't tap dance with him. So I kind of let him know things. And now, you know, having a recent conversation with him, very recent, about sex. He's like, well, I'm not doing it, but I do know when I'm ready to do it, I'm going to cover it up. He was like, because you said if I cover it up, I can't get anyone pregnant. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Him, I need a lot of prayers.
So, and that's what, you know, a lot of the research was saying is really just one, looking at the developmental level, but also the different personalities. And I just heard you say that all three of your kids have different personalities. So that plays a different, and knowing your children, you know, that son of yours, he's like, what's up? Like, you're not going to call us a wiener stinker. This is a whole, he might have another saying, but it might not.
I don't even want to say what he said.
Right,
so.
right. He might say like, oh, I got a schlong, or that shit hang. He might.
Like, oh, no, he called it a mini schlong, but
right.
yeah. I read it and it's still growing, so. I'm scared these girls when I get ready. I said,
dear God.
Right. So that's more of the personality I was expecting. But your son is also, I mean, so yes, your daughter 17, but now in college. But this 12-year-old, he is in the midst of just this social media era, all the information that's on, you know, not even Instagram, just on
everywhere.
Everywhere on the internet. So he has his own, like, it almost sounds like he's educating you on what he knows. Like, this is what it is now. So it's different. It makes
a conversation where I will definitely almost have weekly conversations with him now. Like, so did you kiss anybody? Because you know you could get mono. Like,
I ain't hear anybody say mono in like 20 years.
That speaks to your age. But no, that's good because it's still available. I heard someone recently had a new case of it. So it's still out there. But one of the things that stood out is that there was a difference in the conversations between the boys and the girls. And even hearing it slightly in what you're saying, that the conversation with the girls is like, you're this sacred entity, and you know, this flower, and there's this delicacy that you are. But with the boy, it's like, yo, what's up? Like, what you doing? How you moving? This mini slong around here. You know, it's just this kind of casual kind of conversation with boys, and almost like checking in with the boy, but discouraging with the girl, if that makes sense. Like, hey, my girl, you don't do it, but the boy, I know you're going to do it, so just make sure that you wrap up. So like I said, I slightly heard it with you. Can you relate to that?
So absolutely. And I don't want my daughters to have sex until they're married at all. However, I know given my son and his personality, I might have 2 years, maybe. And that's a strong.
But that's the honesty that parents want to play around with and say, like, not my baby. Like, you got a kid that's in an Ivy League school, so and not saying that somebody who's at another school, you're not raising them right, but I'm saying you raising your kids in a certain way, but sometimes people could be blinded by that. Like, oh, you know, he has good grades and she's in this kind of school. You got to be realistic, and even if you're not sharing it with your family and your friends, you got to be honest with yourself so that you can know how to move. So that's honest, Keisa, of saying, like, yo, I know my kid, and knowing him doesn't mean that you could predict the future, but just knowing him where it means I might have to have a conversation with him weekly.
Staying on top of it.
That's it.
Also with him is the things that he's more exposed to, where my daughter, the oldest one, was very reserved. He's always been outgoing. Like, he's very social. Very social. And then the programs that he went to after school program where kids come from all different walks of life. Yeah. So now you're around these friends who get to tell you
what they know.
And things like that. And recently I took his phone and I'm going through his phone and I'm like, my mouth was open the whole time. Like, oh my God, because not only did I see like his the snaps or whatever that he saved, but there was a lot of little girls in his phone kissing one another, and it was almost like the things that they were doing it for attention from the boys. So with all of that being like right at his disposal, I'm giving it 2 years and I might be stretching it. So, I mean, for me, I'm like, you go everywhere I go, you're going to be glued to my buddy. But realistically, I know that I can't do that. Yeah. So I just have to trust that I'm sharing good information with him moving forward, that he can do the right thing. Now, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but
no, go ahead. Go to that last one.
Want to have the conversation with my 7-year-old early because she's very mature. And I don't know if I'm going to take the same approach I took with my oldest daughter. I might have to, because she's in these same programs. So her friends could be telling her things and showing her things, because then after school, they all have iPhones and it's easy to be like, girl, look at this on YouTube.
Right.
And experienced that. I mean, I had a conversation before, this is personal with me, and so, but one of her friends last year told her about boobs and all of this on YouTube, and it was on her tablet. So I'm like, it forced me to kind of have, conversations. Of course, I didn't want to have it with her at 6, but now by 8, I'm definitely having more open
conversations.
Yeah.
But let me ask you guys a question.
Okay. All right, flip the script.
So what happens, and I don't know, because you guys are professional, how would I take it and respond if my son came to me tomorrow, like, well, I ain't do it, but I'm feeling like I want to do it this weekend. And I'm like, in my heart would probably drop, but I can't stop him from doing something like that. So how would I cope with him wanting to have sex at an early age?
So early age is so relative, because I feel like it's getting younger and younger and younger. Absolutely. So because the norm is becoming younger, it's not really considered early. My thing is always, parents, you can't prevent a lot of things, right? You can't prevent a lot of things, but sometimes you instill your values, all the conversations that you're having, and you have to watch them work. And so if you're having conversations about, okay, if this is a decision you're making, you need to be responsible about it. This is how you be responsible. This is how you get the condoms that you need. This is what I'm tolerating and I'm not tolerating. Once you have those conversations, it's more likely that they'll follow through if you're not taking the approach of don't do it. If you do it, you're getting grounded. Like, for all of that, they're going to do it even more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So to me, it's the emphasis on being responsible. If you're going to play adult games, you got to have adult responsibilities.
So what I'll add, Keisa, I heard you ask kind of 2 questions. One, you said what to do, and then you said how should I cope. So yeah. I'll start with the how do I cope. One thing is trying to remove the judgment that you're gonna place on yourself. You know, like, what did I do? How did I go wrong? How did the other one make it past this and that? So just one, not comparing, you know, what you've been able to do with another child or what has happened in your life. So just kind of trying to remove the judgment that you putting on yourself of, did I mess up, or blaming his dad, or just anything. So just taking the blame off of it and just acknowledging or accepting the world that we in now and the reality, right? So that may be that self part, but then the other piece of what to do is just really having just that open conversation. The biggest thing is, somewhere unintentionally we make kids feel bad about what they feel or what they want to do. So what happens is, even in therapy now, I can have somebody 38 years old and they are talking about like sex and saying like how they are not really into it. And I have to take them all the way back to like 12 of, what was your first impression of sex? And they'll be like, it was bad. Somebody told me I better not do it, because if I do it, I'm going to get pregnant, or I'm going to get an STD, or VD. And now at 38 or 40, unconsciously, they still see sex that way. So it becomes not pleasurable, and it's not designed where it's not supposed to be pleasurable or desirable, right? So really just kind of not making the kid feel bad for it, and then going to like what Shug just said about, okay, so if this is what you want to do, let's kind of talk about how this could look responsible. But then there's another piece too, is before we jump into how are we going to be responsible, tell me more about why you want to do this. Because if your kid says, like I've experienced recently in my household, is everyone is doing it and I am the last one, that ends up switching the conversation for me, because this isn't really about a desire that you want to do. You just want to kind of stay in a trend, in the loop, and you feel left out. That's something totally different. Now, if the kid is saying like, I really feel like this is what I want to do because of their own will and what they're feeling physically, then let's move to the responsible piece. Excuse me. So first figuring out the why, and not drilling. Like, so tell me why, tell me this. Like, oh, okay, so this is where we are. All right, what brings this on? What's making you want to do it now? And see if it's really just because all your homeboys is popping off, so you want to get you some too. Does that make sense?
No, that makes absolute sense.
Because I feel like a lot of stuff is just following now.
I think all of it is following.
It's just following. It's rare that even, adolescent clients that I have, let alone having a 15-year-old also, that I've heard one person say, because I really want to. Like, I really want to. They've experimented with kind of, exploring their own body, so they know what they like. It is 1 out of 20 cases that I hear that usually is because, I don't know. That's the first thing. I don't know why. Well, that's a issue for you to make such a huge decision. You want to be able to know why. You talking about what college you want to go to because blah, 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 blah. To make a big decision like this, I'm going to need you to know what's driving this. And just making a conversation, comfortable of something that's so uneasy, because we could project our stuff on our kids, because it's like, well, I had a abortion at 16 and I had been having sex since I was 14, and we put that on them. So what happens is we start raising our kids like little us. And they not little us. They are little them. So it's kind of like, I can't project all my stuff onto them. You going to get pregnant. Because that's all I heard you say, Keisa, is like, you going to get somebody pregnant or you going to get pregnant. But that could be a reflection of your own experience.
It was. It absolutely was a reflection of my own experience. So this is my other question. Should I go into depth with the children, with my kids, about my past? Because I've had an abortion at 16 and was having sex at 15.
Yes.
So I never explained that to my kids, because I almost didn't want them to throw that up like, oh, but you was doing it. So then why you preaching to me about not doing it?
Yeah.
That's a slippery slope. That's just like, so when when we are going through training to be a therapist, and it's like, oh, if you working with a drug abusing clients and they ask you if you ever use, do you answer the question or not, because it can be helpful, but it can be not helpful as well. And so to me that's just a slippery slope about whether or not how in depth you want to share. I think sometimes it is important for our kids to know that we are not perfect. And so because we know that we were not perfect as kids, that's not what we expect from them.
So for me, just like Shug said, being trained to minimally self-disclose. That used to be their phrase. Minimally disclose. Tell them you're from New York, but don't tell them the area that you was exposed to with shootouts and stuff like that. So, now kind of 14 years in post that, I do feel that self-disclosure, conscious sharing, however you want to look at it, is very beneficial. And the main reason why I say that is because each generation is different, right? And this generation Z, X, Y, I'm not even sure what the fuck they call now, right? But whatever the generation is now, is that lectures is not really effective for them. So just kind of saying you could get somebody pregnant, you could get an STD, or showing it, that doesn't seem to really penetrate. But it seems to be some connection when there is this, because even when you, like Shug just said, for them not to know or think that we're perfect. And sometimes the only way that they really understand that is hearing some experience. Now, as the parent, my favorite rule is you are the president, right? You kind of dictate what that looks like. It's not going to look the same for anyone, because what works for me isn't going to work for you. But you get to determine how much you want to disclose. So say, for example, thank you so much for even being vulnerable to share that with us. But say, for example, you did want to share that about being sexually active at 15, and then also having to terminate a pregnancy at 16. So having that conversation with any of them, saying that, I know it seems like I go so hard on you guys about sex or grilling and asking 1,000 questions, but one of the things I realized that I never shared with y'all is why. And it's because no one had that conversation with me. I found out things in all the wrong ways, which led me to having sex early. And one of the worst things that I experienced was I had to have an abortion. And it took me a really long time to get over that. And I don't want y'all to ever experience anything like that. And I don't share that to boast about it or whatever, but maybe you guys don't really get why I come at you this way. So having that really maybe gives you an idea of where this comes from. Like, me just saying that just now gave me chills, and I'm saying it as if I'm talking to, one of your kids or even my own. And I have, having, my blended family. Her mom and I had a raw conversation with the 15-year-old like that. And no, we didn't go through every sexual partner we had in adolescent years, but we got that vulnerable and saying things like that. And tears came to her eyes, because to her, it just felt like we want her to be perfect. We want her to be this way. We got all these expectations, and that wasn't working. So coming down to her level, meeting her where she was, it seemed like that penetrated a little bit more. So I say share, but use your discretion on how you share, how much.
And knowing your kid, because it sounds like you definitely know your kid. So you probably could tell more, Keisa, in which direction it's going to go as you share it, if you decide to share it with each one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I'm all for like self-disclosure, but just how and how much is always the key, not if you do it.
Yeah. This is very helpful information, because obviously with my son and my goddaughter, who one is 13, one is 12, they are experiencing the same things right now.
Yeah.
And, we literally, I just went, with my god sister to talk to my goddaughter about sex and what she knew. And like, you'll be surprised. And I'm not surprised, because a lot of information comes from friends. Like her friend was telling her, like, "Oh, you can go get a Plan B from Target."
Remember, our era was like the Cosby Show. I remember it was like Rudy was like, if I kiss him, I'll be pregnant. And Vanessa was like, huh? And it was like, yeah. And it went into a whole episode where Claire had to have a conversation with Rudy about. So I don't remember if it went all the way into sex, but it started by her saying she had just had her cycle or something like that. So someone told her friend was like, if this happens, then I'm going to have a baby. So imagine now, so how advanced they are now. Go to Target and get you a Plan B. Like, what?
That is so damn crazy.
But
Shit.
Even when I went to get an abortion, I didn't tell anyone in my family. I went with my best friend, and we had an older friend who was 18, and we just went and got her ID.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was that easy.
Yeah.
So for now, that's why I kind of want to keep the open conversations about sex with my kids, because I would rather it come from me than another teenager who can't really tell you everything.
Right.
Exactly. And gonna steer you with what they know. And I don't want to bank on what you know for your 15 years of life.
Yeah.
So... Oh my gosh, Keisa,
Thank you.
Been such a blessing. Again, thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability with us today. We couldn't have had it no other way, so we had to have somebody who was going to be just as real as us. And you bless us. You got 3 kids, social worker serving the disabled population. So
that's awesome.
you doing your thing. So thank you for giving us your time today.
No, thank you, ladies. You ladies are amazing, and trust me, you guys are touching a lot of people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yay. All right. So we'll talk to you soon. Love you bunch.
See you later.
Bye, ladies.
Bye. Oh, that was good.
That was good. I appreciate people. We are on here. It's so funny because Journey might have been in the car a couple of times when I mentioned her name recently in some episode, and she was like, "You talk about me on the podcast?" And I was like, "Quite frequently, actually." And she was like, "But what about ZJ?" I was like, "So throw ZJ under the bus too." So I appreciate our guests being okay with like sharing their families with us, because it takes a village is a real ass statement.
No, for real, because
it's a real statement,
and it's about just being honest. I said it a little while back of just being honest with knowing your kids, but also being honest with other parents too,
right? And
not making it seem like this is not happening in your home, or like I said, yeah, your kids could be on honor roll and in every sport too, but share with another mom or dad. So they don't have to feel like they alone in this,
right?
Because it becomes a taboo kind of conversation. Like, oh, I don't want to say that because the other parents is gonna be like, oh, she fast, she hot, or he doing too much. I don't want my son hanging out with him because of this and that. Instead of that judgment, like share so that another parent could get that energy to say, oh, how you made it through. I don't care if your kid is 24. Tell another mother what that was like when that kid turned 12, and having that conversation about their cycle. And but that's what another thing. So when I was just asking other parents, the dads I asked was like, no, I'll leave it to the mom. I was like, okay. So I didn't get a chance. Let me put that out there. I didn't get a chance to ask a lot of dads, but the 5 dads I did ask was like, I'll leave it to the mom. But what some of the mothers had said was that they didn't start having a conversation until the cycle started. Because again, many people just connect sex to pregnancy. Right, exactly. Right. So it's like, oh, you got a period now, so I really got to have this conversation now because you could get pregnant. And it's like, it's more to that.
Absolutely.
And then it's really a grooming. And I hate to use the word grooming because that just has a sexual predator kind of connotation to it. But it's really kind of soften them up so that by time you do want to have the heavier part of the conversation, you've already softened the scene. You got the cycle. So you got this little girl who may be as young as 8, all the way up to possibly 13, 14 years old, who's already going through what the fuck has just happened. Or
not even that, because honestly, you know, and thinking about it in retrospect, and my mom I never had a talk. I don't remember a talk, right? But even with the whole menstrual cycle thing, like, I wasn't aware of what was starting to happen. Like, you know how we've had conversations about, oh, well, I think it's going to be time soon because of X, Y, and Z. Like, if somebody would have been having conversations with me about what was happening, because I will, self-disclosure, the things that start to happen with little girls before they're about to have their cycle, I noticed those things as a kid. I thought I had HIV.
Oh, wow. Wow. HIV? Your fucking health class.
I thought I had HIV. And I ain't never have sex.
Right.
So I didn't know what was happening. I'm like, oh shit, what the hell? What is this? Where is this coming from? What is this? Oh my God. And it was in the times of HIV prevention, and everything is like HIV. Yeah. I thought I had motherfucking HIV, yo.
Yeah. So imagine, here you got this kid who thinks she got HIV. Then to find out she ends up having a period, and then you want to have the talk. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm literally just trying to grasp. I don't have HIV. I really just have this kind of walls of my uterine lining breaking down, and I'm bleeding. And what if this happens in school, or what if the blood? That was my fear. Like, I need a whole pamper, because what if this comes through my genes and the boys see, you know? So you got all of that's going on internally, and then someone now want to say, well, now that you have this, we have to have the talk. It's too much. It's too much.
It's extremely
too much to handle.
It's extremely overwhelming.
They're not hearing anything except for, how are you going to make this blood go away? Like, and how am I going to go swimming when this comes?
Exactly.
Until you answer those questions.
I want to go hang from the monkey bars. What the hell you mean?
Exactly.
I got to put on this pamper.
Exactly. Until you answer those questions, ma'am, I don't hear anything, or sir, I don't hear anything that you're saying. So it's kind of like, if you've been having a conversation ongoing, and then, like I said, the conversation starts to progress and may get a little more intense, you've already set the scene. Like, that's a takeaway.
You know what I also think that does, though? That not only does it set the scene in preparing the child, but what it does is it sets the tone for an open line of communication.
All the time.
And so having an open line of communication is very important. Are your kids going to tell you everything? Probably not.
Absolutely.
Right? But what it does do is it says that things don't have to be tense. When we talk, it doesn't have to be an intense, crazy ass conversation. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that definitely is my takeaway. I try to I'm not gonna say that I don't get thrown off by some things that come out of my kid's mouth, but I try not to have the wow factor, because I don't want to scare her away, type of thing. She has a little baby cousin who's a boy. And I remember, I guess, you know, a lot of times my kid don't pay attention to shit. And, you know, I say that a lot. But I guess she was paying attention this day when he was getting his diaper changed. And she was like, Mommy, oh, my God, Nolan has the biggest vagina. And I was like, huh? She was like, it's like big. I was like, whoa. And when I tell you, I had to like walk away for a minute and like bust out laughing and decide how I was going to attack it. And so then I had to come back and I say, well, Journey, you know, the thing about it is that Nolan doesn't have a vagina. It's something different, actually. And she was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And so, you know, we were sitting there having this really intense conversation, but I could have swept it under the rug. And then who the hell knows? She might have thought Nolan was growing a nose in his pamper or something. Like, who knows, you know? And so not just trying, if you got to handle your own feelings first.
Exactly.
Before.
So it sounds like you said 2 takeaways in that. Yes, that's another one.
Handling your feelings first. I think, Sophia, in thinking about my parenting style, and it may change in the next few years, I'm cool with having the talk, but I'm absolutely going to be the parent who's going to say, don't fucking let me catch you having sex in my house, because somebody gonna like, that's where I'm gonna be. That's where my friends are gonna be like.
I heard it even when you said when Keisa asked us a question, it was like, talk about responsibility and what you will accept and what you won't accept. And I already knew what you was going to with that. It went from, talk about responsibility and what you will and what you will not accept or tolerate. I think you might have used the word tolerate.
I'm going to be the mother who say, do not let nobody is having sex in this house but me. That's it. You don't pay no bills. You ain't